Happy Tuesday, last day of the year. Traveling, different video, different noise. Since it's the beginning of the new year, let's talk about putting together like an annual content calendar. There's a bunch of different ways to do it. The way I typically put together my writing content calendar is to pull the major concepts in first. Understand what those concepts are. Then you have to take those concepts and you have to break those concepts out into the subcomponents that you need worked on. Each of those sub-concepts is going to have a time for production. It's going to have, how many words can we produce in a day kind of thing. So if you have been tracking your progress and you know that your average day is 2,000 or 2,500 words, you can plot out how many days of grinding it's going to take you to put together a book. So say your target is 150,000 words for a 1,500 word count. You just divide and that'll give you the number of days it takes to produce your work. So now we know how long the pieces and parts should take. There's going to be outlining in there. There's going to be editing. Typically, your editing process is twice as productive. So if you can do 1,500 words in a day, you can typically do 3,000 words from a 1,500 word per day word count. Then when you're plotting everything out, you know that it's going to take you so many days to produce a work of such and such a size. If you're doing something like an interview-based work, where you're having a conversation, converting that into a piece of work, you should, after the first couple, you should have a solid idea how long the process is going to take. This is why it's important to track what we do. When you're tracking your word count, when you're tracking your production, it allows you to go in later and produce your content calendar for the year. If your content calendar is squared away, you should be able to see how many books you can produce in a year. So there's not just books. There's other pieces and parts you need to have in place, like infrastructure. I'm at that point where I need to finish two basic pieces of my infrastructure. When that infrastructure is finished, pretty much I'm going to switch over the majority of my effort and time to producing content, producing books. Because once that infrastructure is in place, they can capture the emails of visitors and fans. Now all of a sudden, when you have your email list, you are no longer beholden to the whims and wiles of Amazon. You have a single source of failure. You need a backup. And by putting yourself into a position where you can plan out how much you're producing, it makes everything easier. For me, probably the first quarter, I'm going to have all of the major pieces of infrastructure in place. That means if I want to produce interview-based books, coloring books, works of fiction, I can plan that out. If I want to produce fiction every 3 months, it becomes how much time to outline, produce the words in between, how much time for final edits. And the same time the final edits are going, I need to make sure that the cover art's finished. Those are your 4 major steps from outline, content production, editing, and cover. And the cover, the sooner you start that, the better. The last thing you need is to put something that is in the control of someone else's hands, something critical like a cover, leave that into somebody else's hands till the very end. Because the last thing you need is for that cover to be not what you want. And then you have to wait another 2 or 3 months to publish because you have a cover that's crap. And believe me, I've paid for some crappy covers. When you understand how much you can produce in a day, you can take that and you can apply it to your calendar. It's that whole, if you don't know where you're going, you can never get. If you can figure out where you want to put things on your content calendar, that'll very quickly and easily allow you to see what you need to do for the day, for the week. Instead of sitting on your butt and doing nothing, you can look at the calendar on your wall and you can see, hey, I wrote this down in pen, so it must mean something. It's not a digital reminder that I can swipe and forget. When you put it up on a calendar, it becomes real. It's no longer just an idea. And when you're blocking out chunks of time for stuff and you put things into a reasonable schedule. Mondays, I have most of my day chewed up for this activity. I only have 3 hours that I can fill at the end of the day. Set your schedule in place, and then what you can do is do your recurring events, and then you make sure that you put your holidays in, because I always forget to put those on. You take your calendar and the remaining space, and you can basically frame out how much else you're going to do. Because if you've got 3.5 full days in a week, a 7-day week, not a 5-day week, in a 7-day week, if you have 3 days that you can work, those are 3 days that you need to work. If you know that you have 1.5 days worth of obligations and you can grind for the remaining 5.5 days of the week and skip the TV and skip the football and skip the sports and skip the bar. Once you have that on their content calendar, it starts to guide all the rest of your life. You can very quickly and easily start to produce. But those are my thoughts. I hope you have a great new year. That's what I'm gonna be doing when I get home. My travels in the mountains. I'll talk to you later.